How did BYU win this football game? Somehow, some way, after everything, they pulled it out. Let's recap this amazing football game.
You are Locked On West Virginia, your daily podcast on the West Virginia Mountaineers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Guys, welcome back in. My name is Mountaineer Paul. I am your host. This is Locked On West Virginia, guys. Appreciate you so much for joining in on an emergency episode of Locked On West Virginia as we recap the BYU-Arizona game in what was a thrilling, just all-nighter of a game. And I got to be honest, man, I don't know how BYU walked away from this unscathed and perfect at 6-0. I think if you were ever going to make mistakes in a game, this was the game to do it. In a game where you made mistake after mistake, you came out really flat after the delay, and you still pulled this thing out. This is the type of game you lose if it's not your season, if it's not your Big 12, if you're not at least going to be in the conversation to win this league. And I think clearly you are drawing lines and paths for yourself to be concluded in that Texas Tech-Utah discussion, which we're going to learn a lot next week. Utah looked absolutely dominant today in a win over Arizona State. But let's recap this game because Bear Bachmeier, we saw him fall into his freshman mistakes today for sure. I mean, he finally looked like a freshman, and I think this was a big roller coaster. Double overtime, obviously pure guts. What a tough as nails performance from the Cougars today, man. Signature BYU magic, though, on the road, which was tough. Bachmeier, obviously a freshman, tough game for him. But he etched his name into BYU lore with that 7-yard gut check, TD run up the middle. That was clutch as hell, man, especially after the 2-point try got swatted away. Incredible stuff. So the D-line obviously played a huge part in stopping Noah Fafita, that desperation heave on fourth down to end this thing. Those boys locked it down when it mattered the most too. But down 10 in the fourth, no sweat. Somehow they storm back and tie it with 19 seconds left. I was like, man, because I thought BYU was dead in the water 3 or 4 different times. After the late touchdown run, I almost turned it off because I felt like it was over, but I kept watching. Had it been West Virginia, I probably would have followed over my phone for a minute. And if we got back in it, I'd turn it back on really quick. But Bear had the 2-yard plunge, obviously, and what an amazing chalk-cluing drive there to end the game. There was so much in this. LJ Martin was amazing. Bulldozer. BYU runs the ball over 50 times in this game. I mean, are you kidding me? Just incredible, grinded out performance. It was almost like us last week. So let's recap the game in the order, though, because I wrote down on my notepad here just several moments that I wanted to get back to because, So, all right. So in the first quarter, 8 minutes and 55 seconds, BYU strikes first on that explosive run, right? LJ Martin, 28-yard touchdown. It looked like things were really moving right away for the Cougars. And it was the second drive of the game. So you thought, okay, now they're getting rolling. It was 8 plays. It was 66 yards. The fair and kick was good. So BYU up 7-0. Bachmeier hits Parker Kingston for a huge play. First quarter, I think it was 4 minutes, 15 seconds in the first quarter. Next play from scrimmage, Bear Bachmeier, Parker Kingston, 75 yards, 14-0. They looked unstoppable, right? And then Arizona clawed back. 32 seconds left in the first quarter. Fourth down. This is the key. This was one of the things of the day. BYU struggled on fourth to get them off the field on late downs. Chris Hudson, obviously near the midfield, 75 plays, 8 yards, Noah Fafita, 17-yard pass to Hudson. And then that was 14-7. Lightning strikes and pauses the game. This is where I went and recorded, I think, a video for Locked On West Virginia. But, Hurricane Priscilla in the area, we didn't know if this game was going to actually be played at one point this week because of the hurricane in the area. So An interesting thing to even think that a hurricane can reach that far, but here we are with that. So play is halted for 75 minutes. Fans had to evacuate, no reentry. I mean, just an insane drive, momentum killer, whatever you want to call it. This changed the game, in my opinion. I think this is where BYU lost a little bit of their mojo and that crowd and the energy that they were feeding from in Arizona, because you can feed off of the energy from a crowd on the road. You band together, but this is one of those things where it just flattens you guys out. It flattened Arizona out to an extent, but Arizona clearly the more ready team as you guys come out of this. And as we pull up the box score here, we'll see. Oops, wrong box score. That's the yearly, what you guys have on the year. Yeah, here we go. So Bear Bachmeier was 12 and 29 in this game, and he struggled, man. I mean, it was a pretty obvious not bad night for him. But let's get on with some of this post delay, because this is really where the game picked up, to be honest. And I was pretty shocked about it, because after the lightning strike, Arizona chips away at this. Soggy conditions, man. It was a rough environment to play in when it first started back. And then BYU gained, I think they got a first down and then had to punt. And that's when Arizona had Dalton Johnson come in and take a fake punt short, I believe, is when that happened. And then they stalled inside the 10 on 3 incompletions and had a field goal. It was 14-10. Fafita hits a bomb, to give them the halftime lead, but because BYU missed the field goal, his third straight miss, by the way. So that's something that needs to be talked about in BYU country. Arizona responded, 8 plays, 76-yard drive, 35-yard laser to Chris Hunter again, who just dominated this game at times. And then Medina hits the field goal 17-14. And this was the way the half ended. And then if you look at the third quarter, Arizona ate over half the quarter on 14 plays. It was like, well, insane. Like, it was like you just could not get off the field. It was obvious that this delay had impacted you, BYU fans. So, but they turned it over on downs near the goal line. So it's like your defense got worn out, but they were able to stand tall at the very last minute as that pass was picked off by, luckily, Isaiah Glasker was able to play today. No Jack Kelly on 4th and 4. And then obviously there's a lot of pressure in this situation on the road for a young player like Bachmeier. And that's where his pick gives Arizona the field position that they didn't need, but they got it and pushed into their own territory. So then you've got a high snap for Bachmeier, who he somehow recovers right before that. So like he was rattled, right? Like it was pretty obvious that he was rattled, and he had a rough day, but he was really good when it mattered most, right? Because I think BYU proved a lot tonight. I really do. In the fourth quarter, 11 minutes and 14 seconds to go, Riscano had that breakaway run. We thought this was it, right? 4th and short from BYU's 36. And Kendrick Masano, who, by the way, Riscano is a good player, man. I really, really like him. Broke a bunch of tackles in this game. 36-yard bulldozer touchdown on a 10-play, 74-yard drive. Just an absolute backbreaker, and you think it's game over with 11 minutes and 14 seconds to go. BYU has a couple rough drives, and then 4 minutes, 8 seconds to go, or they have one rough drive. I'm trying to remember here because it's been such a long night. But Bachmeier has that 15-play, 69-yard drive. You chew up over 7 minutes of the clock, and you hit the field goal, and you're up, and it's 17-24, and you're alive. But you have to somehow get the ball back. and somehow you do, right? When you do, Parker Kingston's punt was insane, right? And Arizona had because it was a quick possession for Arizona, and then he rumbles down 26 yards on the return, which flips the field position for you guys into their territory. And then that was when the game time drive happened for you guys. Bachmeier, man, in this moment, which I was nervous for you guys the whole way. 11 plays, 47 yards, 2 pass interference calls happened on this drive, and I mean they were earned. They were earned. And then you get inside the 10 from the one on Dansby, and that's when you get the 2-yard run. And I mean, what moxie from Bachmeier, 19 seconds left. That was pure magic. And then you've got overtime 1, Arizona, field goal after the penalty. That was a wild one there because the penalty was basically the run was nullified by holding, which was definitely holding, but it was like BYU kept surviving somehow. And so they have to settle for the field goal, which means that you're really worried now because BYU doesn't do well on their next drive. And then you're looking at Farron like, man, can you do this? You've missed 3 in a row. And he booms a 45-yarder. You want to talk about clutch? That's clutch after you miss 3 field goals, and it's like win or go home, winner or we're not perfect anymore. And this season is not what we thought it was going to be. Well, no, I mean, it's still a good season, but, it puts a damper on the season at this point. And then, obviously, Bachmeier has a 7-yard touchdown dive at the end in second overtime. 5 plays. I mean, it was just grinded out, 50-something runs, man. And the 2-point conversion fails. So when Arizona gets the ball back, you're thinking, oh, my God. And then they just turn it over on downs to end the game. BYU escapes this thing and is now 6-0. And I've got some things written down here that, in my opinion, kind of made the game for the Cougars, right? So obviously, I think the Chase Roberts touchdown or the Chase Roberts drop was a big point in the game. I think the touchdown call back was a big point in this game. The Bachmeier fumble and interceptions were pretty big points in this game. But then you lose Tenavasa to the targeting call, which was just backbreaking. You're already down Jack Kelly. And you had a delay of game. I mean, this game had everything. And listen, it's hard to win on the road. I see people in the comments saying Arizona's not ranked. They're a good football team, right? They proved that today. I think they proved that they're at least an upper tier Big 12 team, top 5 or 6 teams, capable of beating any one of probably anybody maybe not named Texas Tech at this point, although they look like they could be beat today at times. I don't know. I mean, I'm curious to see what other people think about Arizona. I mean, I do think the delay had a large impact on this game. I really do. So, this was one of those games that if you're not going to have a special year, you lose these kind of games during any season, right? So let's get to the numbers on this one. Barry Bachmeier had a horrible game. He was due it after last week against us, where he just looked like a Heisman contender. 12 of 29, 172, 1 touchdown, 2 picks. And then L.J. Martin on the ground. There's a reason I put him on the thumbnail. He had 25 carries for 162 yards and a touchdown. I think he's over 1,000 yards on the season. Just incredible. Parker Kingston continues to be one of the best receivers in all of college football. Obviously, he's just broken totally out this season. 23.4 yard average. That 75-yarder was amazing. Chase Roberts was held in check today. That was surprising. I think he's probably the best receiver in the league, one of the 2 or 3 best. I mean, I got to be honest, Chris Hudson really put his name in that hat today as well today. He looked good at times. And, Arizona's got to get Noah Fafita is a really good player. He's easy to like. I think he's a very likable guy. And Arizona is a team that I don't mind Brent Brennan either. I think he's somebody that you can root for, but certainly not to the fact that a Kalani Sitake is, or Tom Sitake. It's because Tom's my guy, right? So big win for the Cougars. And I know Jake's going to be happy. I think he was at the game, so he's probably not doing Locked On Cougars yet. But I'm sure you guys will be over there as soon as he goes live. Certainly don't stay here as he goes live, I don't want to take away from his viewers. I just figured he had to get home and all that stuff first. But Arizona, like I said, if there's any Arizona fans watching this, I think you got a good football team. Certainly you were better in this game, for a large portion of the second half. But this is what happens. I think BYU is the better team. They just played bad today for a long period of this. They're still working through a freshman quarterback in Bachmeier. Think about the journey that this team has been on, guys. Whenever I was in Provo over the summer, this news had just come down about Jake Retzloff breaking the honor code. And there were some even worse allegations tied to it at first, if you'll remember. And so, unfortunately, that situation happened for all parties involved. Thankfully, it was only the honor code. And, he moves on. He's in Tulane. And then where does BYU go? They've got this ready-made team, ready to win right now. And the next thing we know, it's Bear Bachmeier coming out of Stanford all of a sudden. And nobody knew what to make of this. As a matter of fact, it wasn't him. It was Hillstead that we all thought was going to win the job. McKay Hillstead. That was when I was in Provo. That was the name on a lot of people's lips. So Bear Bachmeier has quite literally come out of nowhere. I think Stanford probably kicks themselves in the ass every day for not getting Bear, and I would too. I mean, I'm mad that West Virginia didn't get him. Even though he had a bad day, I would take him in a heartbeat. He's got heart. He's tough. He wins the right way. I don't like, he doesn't seem too overly cocky when he does it. I love all that. I love this team just in general. I love the Parker Kingston aspect of this team. I love the Chase Roberts aspect of this team. You've got the perfect slot. You got the perfect number one guy. You've got a 6'2", 235-pound running back that can really go. You got an offensive line that dominates in the trenches. You've got Kirkland and company on the defensive line that controls the defensive line at times. Obviously, you were without Jack Kelly today, who was your sideline master. You've got Isaiah Glasker, who lays the wood, a converted safety at the linebacking core that obviously does thing. He's just one of the best players in the entire country. And then obviously, unfortunately for you guys, Tanavasa, who was knocked out of this game today due to the targeting call, which is just brutal. Was that in the first or second half? I can't remember. But if it was in the first half, then obviously you're good to go for next week. But so Tanavasa might be out next week. I'm not sure. We'll have to keep an eye on that. But let's look at some of these season totals really quick before we jump off here, because obviously the Cougars are looking pretty good right now. Bear Bachmeier over 1,000 yards passing. LJ Martin close to 500 yards. Look at Chase Martin, 395 yards. And then Logan, man, 22 tackles on the year. Evan Johnson, one of the best corners in all of college football. You guys have playmakers literally everywhere. Look at this. That's a number one quarterback at but maybe 2 or 3 schools in the Big 12. That's the number one running back at everywhere, but maybe 2 or 3 schools in the Big 12. Maybe. That's a number one wide receiver at every school in the Big 12, right? You've got 2 linebackers that are number one linebackers at every school in the Big 12. You've got a corner that's a number 1 or number 2 at worst, because we have a corner I think is going to get drafted. So like maybe he would be number 2 on here, but I mean it'd be very unlikely. He's probably a number 1 corner wherever he goes, and that's just scratching the surface of this team. You've got a really good offensive line with a ton of starts underneath it, and you've got a coach that's been around for a decade plus now. This BYU team is ready made to win. They're ready to challenge Utah. They're really, or well, I should say the opposite. Utah's ready to challenge you guys. But if College Game Day decides not to go to the Holy War next week, there's something to it. There has to be game day there. There's no other way around it. What other game on the schedule next week is better? Let's look up the week 7 games, because honestly haven't looked yet. Obviously, we know West Virginia's game isn't going to be in contention. So, all right. So, if you're looking, or is it week 8? It's week 8. I forgot we're on a bye week. So you got Louisville, Miami, Georgia Tech, Duke, Washington, Michigan, LSU, Vandy's a good game, but is it better than Utah, BYU? No. So Oklahoma's lost its luster. Oklahoma, South Carolina, maybe, but they lost their luster. They lost. Missouri, Auburn, no. Auburn lost again today. Indiana is incredible. There's the game you're going to have to contend with, and that's going to be a tough one. Ole Miss, Georgia. Yeah, I mean, that's going to be tough, right? And then there's also Tennessee, Bama on that schedule that week. You know, they go to – it's just like they go to SEC dates every single week, it seems like. Sure. Like, can you justify going to Ole Miss, Georgia? Yeah, you can. It's a top 10 matchup. But the Holy War rivalries drive college football is Ole Miss, Georgia, technically, because like every team in the big SEC says they're rivals. And I get it. When you're in conference for that long, you are kind of. But like, we're not talking about Ole Miss, Mississippi State rivalry kind of game. Like Ole Miss and Georgia are rivals because they're SEC teams and they're both good. That's it. Maybe there's a history there that I don't know about. I don't watch either one of those teams closely enough to know. But I just don't understand how, you know, obviously the ESPN has stakes involved with the SEC doing well, and so does Fox with the Big Ten. So we get it. But at the same time, man, just love college football for what it is and realize that these are two teams that were a group of 5 teams 15, 16 years ago, whatever it was now, and that have ascended into top 25 college football programs, both Utah and BYU have. So there's no reason that this game shouldn't be nationally televised on game day. There's no reason that they shouldn't go and show this game off at all. There's no reason. It's in Provo, for God's sakes. Like, there's no way you don't want to show that off. The best view in the country. I don't get it. So hopefully they choose to do that, because if they don't, I'll be doing a story on it next week about how mad I am about it. That's just the truth. So I try, guys. I mean, look, you guys won me over. I'm definitely a Mountaineer fan. I will never come off of that. And I'm always going to be a West Virginia fan. But over $1,000 or 1,000 people subscribe to this channel from BYU country. I would be stupid. I'd be dumb not to cover you guys now some, right? I feel like it's deserving. I just don't want to step on Jake's toes or anybody else that covers you guys that like, well, just Jake really is the only one I care about. Because it's obviously he's the BYU guy. I'm not trying to be the BYU guy. I just love you guys. You know what I mean? I'm going to catch hell for it from my people. Trust me, they're going to call me a BYU fan. And I'll say, yeah, I am, but I don't love them more than West Virginia. That's the only way to handle it. You learn not to care what people think as much in this business, because everybody has an opinion how you should do things, right? Everybody feels like you should do things one way or the other. So if you take them all into account, you're going to be a wayward spirit, you know? So I don't do that. I listen to who matters, which is my family, my circle of friends in this industry, and people who I feel like love me. So big win for the Cougs, man. I love you guys, and I hope you guys continue to show up for me. as I continue to cover you guys. I'll learn more about the team. Obviously, I'm not as an expert on BYU. I mean, there are still names I can't pronounce. Hell, I even called you guys Utah at one point, I think, earlier in the day, just because it's in the state of Utah, and I'm trying to remember all this stuff. So, like, I'm going to make mistakes. Just don't hate me for it. And I promise you, you'll get a loyal one. I'll because once I learn a team, then I can really spit out content. Like, as of right now, I'm able to do West Virginia shows 7 days a week, twice a day, and I've done that since October of last year. I haven't missed a day. So that's a lot of content, right? I'm very passionate about it, but I also have a lot of ideas and things I think can be good, or at least opinions on certain things. And once I start to follow your recruiting and everything and your portal, it's going to get wild because I may have to start another channel, not Locked On, dedicated to it, because I don't know how my boss will feel about. We'll walk through it together. Obviously, I think for now, preliminary, I'm just going to do the big events like wins and losses, but I'm certainly motivated to do more. We'll just have to see what that looks like because, I think I just don't want to run off West Virginia fans either, right? And I mean, I love them, obviously. And if I covered you a lot, I don't know, if it would run any of them off or not. It's kind of a touchy thing because I'm the West Virginia guy, right? It's not like I'm Drake. I'm not doing Big 12. So we'll just have to play it by ear. I'm going to do topics like this, but I don't know, like full time. Maybe that would be too much. We'll think about it. We'll think about what to do. I'm still going to follow you, and that way when I do cover you, follow you full time. That way when I cover you, I'll be able to speak on it. So, and if everything ever happens to Jake and he moves on or gets a better job, well, not a better job, but like a different job, maybe I could help on that show. So there are a bunch of different things this can benefit. So. Big win for you guys tonight. I appreciate your support as always. Make sure you like the video. If you could do me a favor as well, just go up into the space bar or the www up there. Copy and paste that link to your X accounts, your Facebook accounts, different things like that. That way we can get the show out to just a few more people. That way we can grab a few more BYU peeps. You guys showed up though, man. We went 60,000 views deep on the video about going to Provo. Not to mention we were the second story in the state of Utah, all of us, not just me, behind President Nelson. I do have a Book of Mormon on my phone, and I also have one that, listening to this, and we'll get off here really quick. Somehow, some way, two sisters found my mom, and they found it by reading the Deseret News, and just knowing somehow they found out my last name because it was in the article, and then they went on Facebook and found out the area generally where I was in, but I haven't changed it from where I lived before, so they ended up in down the road from me in my mom's area and actually found me knocking on her door. I was like, dog, you guys did some investigation to find me, didn't you? I wasn't offended. I was just like, they were excited. They wanted to come talk about the article and stuff. So, anyways, we're off track. I get off track. I'm like squirrel, Rottweiler. So you'll have to forgive me. All right, guys, let's jump out. BYU wins it, big time win. Obviously 6-0. You're perfect. And who would have ever thought that with the freshman coming in Bachmeier? Wishing you guys the best all the way through. And we'll continue to cover the Cougs. Big stories coming this week. What happens with Jack Kelly? What happens with Tanabasa? Was that in the second half? Did we find out? We'll know. Obviously, there's the injury factor. Is anybody nicked up today? We saw some guys limp off. And look, that delay had an impact on this game. And also, you got to remember, when you have delays like that, the likelihood for muscle injuries and soft tissue injuries go way up. So we'll have to continue to monitor that and see if anybody on either side, hopefully nobody, was injured. And ESPN, it's time. And maybe I'll do a show on that this week. Game day needs to – actually, you know what? I will. I'll do a show on game day needs to be in Provo like yesterday. Thanks for making Locked On West Virginia your first listen and for being a part of the Locked On Podcast Network where we talk about your team, the Mountaineers, every single day. Until then, guys, make sure you check out Locked On Big 12 for your second listen as Drake Troll leads the conversation in America's Conference, the Locked On Big 12 show, and he does a great job as always. And I'll see you guys on the next one. But until we do, don't forget to always cue them country roads.